So in this video, we are going to graph the sin x and cosine x. But before we proceed with our discussion, we will try to recall first on the unit circle. So we have to remember the 4 points of the unit circle. So this point is equal to 1, 0. And this one, this coordinate is equal to 0, 1. And this one is negative 1, 0. The other one is 0, negative 1. Notice that in a unit circle, one complete revolution is just equal to 2 pi. So this one, which is equivalent to 90 degrees or pi over 2. This is equal to pi, and this one is 3 pi over 2. Now, how do we graph y equals sin x? First, we will make a table of values. So, say for example, we have x. The other one is we have sin x. Okay. Now, if x is equal to 0, then sin x, if x is equal to 0, then sin x is equal to 0. What about if x is equal to pi over 2? Pi over 2. So pi over 2, then your sin x is equal to 1. If x is equal to pi, then your sin x is equal to 0. If x is equal to 3 pi over 2, then your sin x is equal to negative 1. If your x is equal to 2 pi, then your sin x is equal to 0. Okay? So let's try to graph now the y equals sin x. So this is our this is gonna be negative 1. No, this is positive 1, and this is negative 1. So this is our pi over 2. This one is our pi. This is 3 pi over 2, and this one is our 2 pi. If x is equal to 0, then sin x is equal to 0. If pi over 2, if x is equal to pi over 2, then sin x is equal to positive 1, right? If pi is equal, if x is equal to pi, then sin x is equal to 0. 3 pi over 2, negative 1. 2 pi over 2 pi, 0. Okay, so our graph is gonna look like this one. Okay, so this is now the graph of y equals sin x. What about the graph of y equals cosine x? Okay, again, we will make a table of values. So this is your x, and this is gonna be your y equals cosine x. So if x is equal to 0, then your cosine x is equal to 1, right? If x is equal to 0, then your cosine x is equal to 1. If your x is equal to pi over 2, then your cosine x is equal to 0. Because this is your cosine. The first element is your cosine and the second element is your sine. If your x is equal to pi, then your cosine is equal to negative 1. If x is equal to 3 pi over 2, then cosine is equal to 0. Then 2 pi, cosine is equal to 1. So let's draw the graph. This is your pi over 2. This is your pi. 3 pi over 2. And your 2 pi. This is your positive 1 and negative 1. So we will plot the points now. So if x is 0, cosine x is equal to positive 1. Pi over 2, 0. Pi, negative 1. 3 pi over 2, that is 0. And 2 pi is positive 1. Right? So your graph must be okay, so this is now the graph of your y equals cosine x. So that's all.